What would you do if the person you trusted most asked for something that quietly broke your heart? Emily Carter never thought an ordinary Tuesday night would change her marriage. The house smelled like garlic and fresh basil. Soft jazz played in the background. Rain slid down the kitchen windows in thin silver lines. Everything looked peaceful. Normal. Safe. But when Daniel walked through the door, she felt it right away. Something had shifted. He didn't kiss her the way he usually did. He didn't smile. His shoulders were tight, and his eyes avoided hers. Emily turned off the stove and wiped her hands slowly. "Long day?" she asked. "Yeah," he said, but his voice sounded distant. They sat at the kitchen table. The plates were full, but neither of them touched the food. The silence grew heavy. Daniel stared at his hands like he was building courage from nothing. "Can we talk?" he finally asked. Her stomach dropped. "Those words never meant anything small, of course," she replied, trying to sound calm. Daniel took a deep breath. "I've been feeling disconnected." The word felt sharp. "Disconnected from what?" she asked carefully. "From us," he said. Emily blinked. 8 years of marriage. Movie nights. Road trips. Shared bills. Shared dreams. "Disconnected? I don't understand," she whispered. Daniel leaned back in his chair. "We've become routine. Work. Dinner. Sleep. Repeat. We barely talk about anything real anymore." Emily felt heat rise in her chest. "That's life, Daniel. It gets busy." "I know," he said quickly. "And I love you." "I do." "This isn't about not loving you." Her heart beat faster. "When someone says that, something else is coming." "There's someone at work," he admitted. The world went quiet. Emily stared at him. The rain outside seemed louder now. It's not physical," he said quickly. "Nothing happened." "But?" Emily asked, but talking to her made me realize something's missing. The sentence landed like a slow crack in glass. "Are you saying you have feelings for her?" she asked, her voice steady but fragile. Daniel closed his eyes for a second. "I don't know what I feel." "That's the problem." Emily pushed her chair back slightly. The room felt smaller. "Her name is Sophie," Daniel continued. "She's new at the company. We worked late on a project. We talked. It felt easy." Easy, that word hurt more than anything. "So now what?" Emily asked. Daniel looked up at her, and for the first time she saw fear in his face. "I think we need space." She froze. "Space," she repeated. "Temporary," he said. "I need time to figure out if what I'm feeling is real or just confusion. I don't want to lie to you. I don't want to cheat. I want to be honest before something worse happens." Emily stood up and walked to the sink. She needed distance, even if it was only a few steps. Her reflection in the dark window looked like a stranger. "You're asking to separate," she said quietly. "Yes." The word felt final. "Because of her?" "Because of us," he replied. "Because I don't want to wake up in 10 years wondering if I ignored something important." Emily turned around slowly. "And what about me? Do I get a say in this?" "You do," he said. "If you tell me no, I'll stay." She studied him carefully. That wasn't the answer she wanted. "Would you stay because you want to?" she asked, "or because I forced you?" Daniel didn't respond right away. That silence answered everything. Emily felt tears burn her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "How long?" she asked. "A few weeks. Maybe a month." "And during that time?" Her voice trembled slightly. "Are you going to explore whatever this is with her?" Daniel hesitated. "I need clarity." That hesitation hurt more than any confession. Emily nodded slowly. "So you want the freedom to see if she feels better than I do?" "That's not fair," he said. "Neither is this," she replied. The rain kept falling outside. Steady and cold. For a moment, neither of them spoke. 8 years of shared history stood between them like a wall. "I never meant to hurt you," Daniel said softly. "But you are," she answered. The truth sat between them. After a long silence, Emily surprised herself. If you feel this lost, she said quietly, then maybe space is already here. Whether I agree or not. Daniel looked up at her, shocked. I don't want you staying out of guilt, she continued. If you need to figure out your heart, do it. The words felt brave. But inside, she was breaking. Daniel reached across the table as if to touch her hand, then stopped halfway. I don't want to lose you. Then don't, she whispered, but she knew it wasn't that simple. That night, Daniel packed a small suitcase. Not dramatic. Not rushed. Just quiet. Emily stood in the bedroom doorway, watching him fold his clothes. The room felt unfamiliar already. When are you leaving? She asked. Tonight, he said gently. It's better this way. Better, she almost laughed at the word. He walked toward her before leaving. I love you, he said again. She looked at him carefully. I hope that's still true in a month. He paused, then walked past her. The front door closed with a soft click. Emily stood in the silence. The house felt larger and emptier at the same time. She walked into the kitchen. The pasta was still on the table. Cold now, she sat down slowly and stared at the chair where Daniel had been sitting an hour ago. Screaming. No slammed doors. Just a quiet request that turned her world upside down. As the rain continued to fall outside, Emily asked herself one painful question: was this honesty the beginning of saving their marriage, or the first step toward losing it forever? Can distance save a marriage, or does it only show how far apart two people already are? 2 weeks after Daniel moved out, the house felt too quiet. Emily woke up every morning reaching for him, then remembering he wasn't there. His side of the bed stayed perfectly neat. No warmth. No soft breathing. Just empty space. She kept herself busy. Work at the university library helped. The routine felt safe. Books didn't change. Shelves didn't walk away. She smiled at students. She answered questions. She pretended her heart wasn't waiting for a message that might never come. Daniel had rented a small apartment downtown. It was modern but cold. Gray walls. Minimal furniture. No pictures. No history. The first night there, he stood in the middle of the living room and felt something unexpected. Freedom. And guilt. He texted Emily that he had settled in. She replied with a simple, okay. Nothing more. At work, Sophie noticed the change in him. Everything all right? She asked one afternoon while they reviewed a project. Daniel nodded. Just thinking. They started eating lunch together more often. Talking about movies. Childhood memories. Future dreams. It felt light. Easy. No shared bills. No hard history. But every time Sophie laughed, Daniel remembered how Emily used to laugh the same way when they were younger. That memory refused to leave him. One evening, Sophie invited him to a small art show. It'll be fun, she said. No pressure. Daniel hesitated. I'm technically still married. Sophie smiled gently. You said you're separated. He didn't respond right away. Meanwhile, back at the library, Emily's world shifted slightly when Ryan Mitchell started working closely with her on a campus event. Ryan was calm. Kind eyes. Thoughtful words. Recently divorced. He understood quiet heartbreak. They stayed late one evening organizing files. Rain tapped against the windows again, just like that night with Daniel. You don't have to answer, Ryan said softly, but are you okay? Emily looked at him. Something about his voice made her walls crack. My husband asked for space, she said simply. Ryan nodded, not surprised. That's hard. He says he hasn't crossed a line, she continued. But sometimes I think emotional distance hurts more than anything physical. Ryan didn't interrupt. He just listened. That night, Daniel went to the art show with Sophie. Soft lights. Soft music. Paintings on white walls. Sophie stood close to him as they walked through the gallery. At one point, their shoulders touched. Daniel didn't move away. It felt nice not to think about heavy conversations, but later, when Sophie reached for his hand without thinking, his heart jumped. He gently pulled back. I can't, he said quietly. Sophie looked confused. I thought you wanted space to figure things out. I did, he replied. I do. But I haven't ended my marriage. The words surprised even him. Back at home, Emily sat alone on her couch scrolling through old photos on her phone. Beach vacations. Christmas mornings. Late-night selfies with Daniel when they were younger and carefree. Her phone buzzed. Ryan, *, made it home safe. Thanks for staying late, *, she smiled slightly. Then felt guilty for smiling. She typed back, thanks for listening earlier. Ryan replied almost instantly, anytime. The conversation was harmless. But the comfort felt dangerous. The next morning, Daniel called Emily unexpectedly. I didn't cross a line, he said quickly, almost defensively. She frowned. I didn't ask. I just want you to know, he continued. I'm trying to understand my feelings without destroying us. Emily closed her eyes. And have you figured anything out? Daniel hesitated. I feel alive when I'm with her. The words stung, but, he added quickly, I feel grounded when I think about you. Grounded? Emily wasn't sure if that was a compliment or an insult. I met someone too, she admitted suddenly. Silence filled the line. Who? Daniel asked, his voice tightening. A colleague. Ryan. We've talked. That's all. Daniel's chest tightened in a way he didn't expect. Jealousy, you see? Emily said softly. This is what space does. It opens doors. Neither of them spoke for a moment. That night, Daniel sat alone in his apartment thinking about how easily feelings could shift. Not because love disappears, but because attention changes direction. Sophie texted him, *, had fun tonight. I like where this is going, *. He stared at the message for a long time. At the same time, Emily received a message from Ryan, *, coffee tomorrow? Just as friends, *, her heart beat faster. She typed yes. The next day, Daniel surprised himself. Instead of replying to Sophie, he drove past his old house. He didn't go inside. He just sat in the car watching the familiar windows. Inside, Emily was getting ready to meet Ryan. She looked at herself in the mirror. She didn't look like someone starting over. She looked like someone unsure of everything. At the cafe, Ryan made her laugh again. It felt natural. Safe. You deserve clarity, Ryan said gently. Not confusion. Emily stared into her coffee. What if clarity means losing him? Ryan didn't answer. Across town, Daniel finally replied to Sophie, I need more time. She responded with a simple, I understand, but her tone felt different. That evening, Emily returned home feeling lighter and heavier at the same time. Her phone buzzed. Daniel, I miss you. She stared at the screen for a long moment. Then she typed, I miss who we used to be. The reply came slower this time. * Maybe we can still find them. * Emily placed her phone down and looked around the quiet house. Distance had shown them something important. Temptation wasn't about excitement, it was about feeling seen, and now, both of them were standing on opposite sides of a fragile line. The question wasn't whether they had crossed it yet. The real question was, how much longer could they stand this close to the edge? * What happens when loneliness starts to feel like permission? * 3 weeks into the separation, everything felt blurred. Not broken. Not healed. Just uncertain. Emily had learned how to sleep alone. Daniel had learned how to cook simple meals in his quiet apartment. They were functioning. But neither of them felt steady. Daniel found himself thinking about Emily at strange moments. While waiting for coffee. While driving home. While hearing a song they used to play on long road trips. He told himself he needed clarity. But clarity wasn't coming. Only conflict. Sophie remained kind. Patient. She never pushed him. That made it harder. One afternoon she asked, if you knew your marriage was over, what would you do? Daniel didn't answer right away. Because the truth was simple. He didn't know if it was over. That evening, he returned to his apartment and saw the wedding photo he had placed face down on the shelf. He picked it up slowly. Emily's smile in the picture was real. Full of trust. He remembered the day clearly. The promises. The laughter. The feeling that nothing could pull them apart. His phone buzzed. Sophie again. Miss talking to you. He stared at the message, then locked his phone without replying. Across town, Emily sat on her couch reading, but she wasn't focused. Ryan had become a steady presence in her days. He wasn't dramatic. He wasn't intense. He was calm. Understanding. He never asked her to choose. He simply showed up. That night, the city was hit by a heavy storm. Wind shook the trees. Thunder rolled across the sky. The power flickered in Emily's house before going out completely. The darkness felt overwhelming. Her first instinct was to call Daniel. She stopped herself. Instead, her phone lit up. Ryan, *, power's out here too. Are you okay? *, she hesitated. Then replied, *, yes. Just sitting in the dark. *, a few minutes later, there was a knock at her door. Ryan stood outside holding a flashlight and 2 cups of coffee. Thought you might need this, he said with a gentle smile. Emily let him in. They sat in the living room with candles between them. The storm outside made the moment feel isolated from the world. Safe. Private. They talked about simple things at first. Favorite books. Childhood fears. Then the conversation shifted. Do you still love him? Ryan asked softly. Emily didn't answer immediately. She stared at the candle flame. Yes, she admitted. But love feels different now. Different how? Less certain. Less warm. Ryan nodded. Love doesn't always disappear. Sometimes it just gets buried. A loud crack of thunder shook the house. Instinctively, Emily moved closer. Their shoulders touched. Neither moved away. The moment stretched longer than it should have. Ryan looked at her carefully. You're still married, he said quietly. The reminder hit her like cold air. I know, she whispered. Their hands brushed slightly as she shifted. It wasn't planned. It wasn't dramatic. But it carried weight. For a second, she imagined what it would feel like to let herself fall into something new. Something easier. Something that didn't carry years of history. But then she saw Daniel's face in her mind. Not angry. Not distant. Just confused. Human. She stood up quickly. I can't do this. Ryan nodded immediately. I respect that. No anger. No pressure, just understanding. Across the city, Daniel sat alone on his couch listening to the same storm. He thought about Sophie. He thought about Emily. He thought about how easy it would be to choose excitement over effort. His phone was in his hand before he even realized it. He dialed Emily. She stared at the screen when it lit up with his name. Ryan noticed but said nothing. She stepped into the kitchen before answering. Hello, she said softly. I don't know why I'm calling, Daniel admitted. I just felt like I needed to hear your voice. The honesty in his tone caught her off guard. I almost made a mistake tonight, she confessed. Daniel's breath caught. Did you? No, she said. But I understood how close I was. Daniel closed his eyes. Me too. The admission hung heavy between them. For the first time, neither of them blamed the other. I thought space would give me answers, Daniel said. But it only showed me how easy it is to drift. Emily leaned against the counter. Maybe we needed to see the edge, she whispered. To know what we were about to lose. Silence followed. I don't want to lose you, Daniel said, his voice steady now. Then don't, she replied. Ryan quietly gathered his things in the living room, giving her space. When she returned, he gave her a small nod. No questions. No drama. After he left, Emily sat alone again. But something had shifted, not fixed, but clearer. Daniel ended his call and stared at the city lights outside his apartment window. For the first time since he left, the excitement he felt around Sophie seemed smaller. Temporary. What he had with Emily was complicated. Heavy. Real, and real things are harder to replace. The storm slowly passed. The lights flickered back on in both homes. Emily and Daniel were still apart, still uncertain, but now they understood something powerful. Infidelity doesn't always begin with action. It begins with attention, with loneliness, with moments that feel harmless but carry weight. They had both stood at the edge, they had both looked down, and they had both stepped back, but stepping back was only the beginning. The real question now was this: after coming so close to losing everything, could they truly rebuild? What had almost slipped through their fingers? Can love survive after standing so close to betrayal? 2 days after the storm, Emily asked Daniel to meet her at the small cafe where they had their first date 10 years ago. The place hadn't changed. Same brick walls. Same wooden tables. Same quiet music in the background. But they had changed. They sat across from each other, not as strangers, not as enemies, but as two people who almost let everything fall apart. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Daniel broke the silence. I ended it with Sophie. His voice was calm, but firm. Nothing happened. But I knew where it was heading. Emily nodded slowly. Ryan came over during the storm. I asked him to leave. She didn't look ashamed. Just honest. I didn't want to cross that line. The truth felt heavy, but clean. No secrets. No lies. Daniel leaned forward. Why did we let it get that far? Emily took a breath. Because we stopped seeing each other. We lived in the same house, but we stopped talking about what mattered. We got busy. Tired. Comfortable. He knew she was right. Work had taken over his life. He thought providing was enough. He thought stability meant safety. But emotional distance had quietly grown between them. I thought you didn't need me the same way anymore, Daniel admitted. You were so independent. So strong. Emily gave a small, sad smile. Strength doesn't mean I didn't feel alone. That sentence hit him deeper than anything else. They talked for over an hour. No raised voices. No blaming. Just clarity. They spoke about missed dinners. Unanswered texts. Nights spent scrolling on phones instead of speaking. They realized the problem wasn't one big event. It was many small moments ignored. When they finally stood up to leave, Daniel hesitated. What now? Emily looked at him carefully. Now we decide if we want to try again. Not because it's comfortable. Not because it's easy. But because we choose it. He reached for her hand. Slowly. Gently. She didn't pull away. That night, Daniel returned home. Not to move back in. Not yet. But to talk more. To sit on the same couch and share space again without tension. It felt strange at first. Familiar, but new. Over the next few days, they made small changes. They set boundaries. Clear ones. No private emotional connections with other people. No late-night conversations that crossed lines. Full transparency with phones and messages. Not as punishment. As protection. Daniel deleted Sophie's number in front of Emily. Not dramatically. Just respectfully. Emily sent Ryan a short message thanking him for his kindness and explaining she needed to focus on her marriage. Ryan replied with understanding. No bitterness. No drama. One evening, they decided to walk through their neighborhood. The air was cool. The sky soft with sunset colors. It felt like dating again. Slightly awkward. Slightly exciting. Do you remember our first apartment? Emily asked with a light laugh. Daniel smiled. The one with the broken heater? And the tiny kitchen, she added. They laughed together, and something inside them shifted again. Not back to who they were before. But forward to something more aware. Still, healing wasn't instant. One afternoon, Daniel found himself thinking about how close he came to losing her. The guilt crept in. He almost pulled away emotionally again, afraid he didn't deserve another chance. Emily noticed the shift immediately. Don't shut down, she told him gently. We're rebuilding. Not pretending it didn't happen. Her maturity surprised him. She wasn't ignoring the past few weeks. She was using them. Weeks passed. Therapy sessions began. Hard conversations followed. They spoke about expectations. About attraction. About how attention from others can feel flattering when your partner feels distant. They learned that emotional loyalty isn't automatic. It requires effort. One night, Daniel planned something simple. He cooked dinner, lit candles, played their old playlist softly in the background. No grand gestures, just intention. When Emily walked into the dining room, she paused. "You did all this?" He shrugged slightly. "I wanted to." They sat across from each other, and for the first time in months, the silence between them felt warm instead of heavy. "Why didn't we do this sooner?" Emily asked quietly. "Because we thought love could run on autopilot," Daniel answered honestly. After dinner, they stood by the window, looking out at the quiet street. Daniel wrapped his arm around her slowly, giving her space to step away if she wanted. She didn't. Instead, she leaned into him. No dramatic music. No perfect ending. Just two people choosing each other again. But life rarely stays simple. A week later, Sophie showed up at Daniel's workplace unexpectedly. Not angry. Just confused. She wanted closure. Daniel spoke to her calmly, respectfully. He explained that his marriage mattered more than temporary comfort. Sophie listened. Hurt, but understanding. She left without a scene that evening. Daniel told Emily immediately. No hiding. No delay. Trust rebuilds in moments like that. Emily listened carefully, then nodded. Thank you for telling me. Small bricks. Slowly stacking. Months passed. The house felt lighter. Laughter returned more often. They planned a short trip to the coast. Just the two of them. No distractions. No phones after sunset. On their last night there, sitting on the beach under a sky full of stars, Emily turned to him. We almost lost this. Daniel squeezed her hand. But we didn't. She looked at the waves rolling in. Do you think it could happen again? He answered honestly. Only if we stop paying attention. Love wasn't about never feeling tempted. It was about choosing each other when temptation appeared. As they walked back toward their hotel, fingers intertwined, neither of them felt perfect. Neither of them felt naive. They felt aware, stronger, but deep down, one quiet truth remained. Love survives not because it avoids the edge, but because both people decide not to jump.